We're going to go through the playbook on how you beat Kamala Harris.
She's not just radical. She's radical by the standards of the Democratic primary electorate.
What Joe Biden never had, that she has in spades, is the single most radical record and rhetoric of any major party nominee in the history of the United States presidency.
That's the message.
The journos are trying to cover up for her history. What they can't cover up for is the video, and we have it.
There is a custom-made clip for anything you care about.
You remember the Barack Obama message was like, this guy's going to fundamentally transform America?
Yeah.
Like Kamala Harris would destroy it. Abolish ICE, decriminalize illegal aliens crossing the border / police budgets, do away with private health insurance. Like she would change. She would change American society forever.
Right.
The positions that she took are the ones that they are now going to have to defend.
If you thought for 1 second that Joe Biden was as bad as it can get, like, I got news for you.
Yep.
Like, you won't recognize your country.
I think a thematic here against Kamala Harris is just how much she would disrupt the America that we know and love.
Republicans are going to have to get very active at pushing this stuff.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
Just a catching strays over here.
You're in for a hell of a show.
Keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs.
It's time for our main event.
Well, welcome back to the Ruthless Variety Program. A familiar face has rejoined us. I'm Josh Holmes along with Smugglesworth. How
Great
are
to
you,
be
sir?
back. Excellent.
Michael Duncan, John Ashbrook, full cast and crew at you this morning. This is fantastic.
Doesn't get better. Left to right across your radio dial.
That's
as they say.
exactly right. Exactly right, Johnny. A lot of news, a lot of things going. I feel like almost every day at this point, there's like groundbreaking events at each hour of the day. Mm-hmm. And of course, what we saw yesterday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, came to address a joint session of Congress. No Kamala Harris.
She boycotted.
No Joe Biden.
He did too.
You know who did make it outside was about 20,000 pro-Hamas protesters.
Yeah.
Did you see where they got violent with Capitol Police?
Yeah.
Like tossing people around.
Did you see they tore down the American flag and replaced it with their own?
Of course they did.
And they had like a mini guillotine.
They had a guillotine?
They had a guillotine out there made from a Palestinian flag. It was like in the shape of the Palestinian flag where the triangle would come down to...
You know, it's
like,
almost...
Put that creativity towards something good, dude.
It's almost like what we've been saying all along is right, that Hamas has a constituency in the Democratic Party.
Imagine, not only does it have a constituency, but a constituency so significant that the newly minted leader of the Democratic Party, now 72 hours of age, decided that she was going to go speak to a sorority function instead of sitting in on a joint session of Congress.
Yeah.
That's choice.
An event serious enough that John, Fetterman wore a suit and showed up. Like
Rarity.
that's the state of the Democratic Party. Is the guy who had a stroke remembers to show up with a suit.
Yeah.
And the current, presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party skips it.
Well, and just recall that she spent the better part of the last 6 months attempting to triangulate the Biden administration position vis-a-vis our greatest ally in the region and try to speak to the Hamas constituency.
Yeah.
That was like her role, which we're going to get into. And we're going to get into a whole bunch of stuff. I first want to play this clip because I think it perfectly encapsulates where the Democratic Party is after this like 4-week whirlwind of getting rid of their current president of the United States and then trying to get Kamala Harris and trying to get people actually excited about it. Let's play clip 1, Spaghettis.
So now that the process is played out, from the grassroots bottom up, we are here today to throw our support behind Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm clapping. You don't have to.
I hadn't heard from the grassroots bottom up.
It was a grassroots vote.
Very grassroots
That grassroots op-ed by actor George Clooney. You know, the behind the scenes smoke filled room with Obama and Pelosi. And the funniest thing is like Schumer himself had to go to Rehoboth to convince this guy to drop out. And he's like, the grassroots, we listen to the people.
Dude, it's just so shameless. It's perfect. It perfectly encapsulates today's Democratic Party, doesn't it?
I mean, 100%. So their actual voters had zero input on this.
They all
whatsoever.
voted for the invalid.
Yeah, and we all saw this process play out. It's like in real time they're trying to rewrite history. Where they're like, oh, well, you see the grassroots election. Dude, we were watching the news for the past 2 weeks where you're all going to his house and saying you're done. Like, get real.
Well, it was up from the ground.
100%.
You know, they were hearing it from the base of the Democratic Party. When's the last time you think Chuck Schumer's encountered a real person?
Yeah.
When their grassroots turned out at the Capitol yesterday and all the Palestinian flags.
Well, he was, I'm sure, safely cloistered away in his Capitol office. There's no way they're going to allow that. I mean, first of all, he's Jewish. They don't like that.
Right.
Yeah.
As
Clearly.
we know. Which I did find completely hilarious with the rumor coming out that Harris had selected Shapiro. Of course, that's conjecture and rumor, and she's selected nobody at this point. But doing that with 20,000 of your base constituency out protesting the leader of the Jewish state is good comedy.
Yeah, that's funny stuff.
That's good comedy. It's good comedy.
Fellas, there was a headline on that subject I'd just like to read to you. The one vice presidential pick who could ruin the Democratic Party. That was the headline. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro is a leading candidate to be Kamala Harris's running mate. Selecting him would fracture the party.
What?
Think about that.
That's insane.
I mean, he's by far and away the most talented of all of them. And I say that like hedging a little bit just because I really don't want it to be him. But like if it is, I still think we can win this. First of all, she's the top of the ticket. And we'll get into all of that. But he's by far and away the most talented. If you can come to the conclusion that that would like fracture the Democratic Party forever, maybe it wasn't so hyperbolic to suggest that Hamas is a constituency of the Democratic Party.
Exactly right. There's no hyperbole to that at all.
It isn't. It just is what it is.
I mean, they were out there with Hamas flags. There's nothing clearer to be like, we support Hamas. We're marching with their flags. Like, please believe us.
So, look, it's been a good 4 or 5 weeks for Republicans everywhere across the country with news cycle after news cycle. And obviously it was disrupted a bit on Sunday with Biden announcing that he's no longer seeking re-election and immediately anointing Kamala Harris as sort of the standard bearer, and all of them quickly rallying around that. And, you know, some trepidation because you don't know exactly how that's all going to play out. And there was, like, I would say 24, 36 hours where I was looking at the reaction from base Republicans, and I was like, like, I'm not sure that's our best stuff. Wednesday, that stuff all changed. And I'm incredibly gratified by Republicans immediately getting to work here and knowing what it is that needs to be highlighted by Kamala Harris. We're going to go through all of that in great specificity. We got a long segment that we're going to get through on how you actually go about beating Kamala Harris, because there's a lot of you who are base constituency who will look at her and be like, well, nobody's going to vote for her. Not true. Not true. I talked about this a little bit on Fox this morning, where it was my view of this is Joe Biden's ceiling, meaning the top possibility for him to get votes in all of these key states, had dropped below that of Donald Trump. And remember, that's why they wanted Donald Trump in the first place, because he had a lower than 50 ceiling. But Biden's ceiling had dropped below, and there was no way he was going to get back up, so they had to make a move. Now, her ceiling is hypothetically higher than his, because hypothetically there are a lot of people still open for business. They don't know a lot about her, and they're like, oh, what's this? So that's the work that needs to be done over the next 100 days to try to figure out exactly how to express to the American people just how radical this woman is. But the good news is her basement's a lot lower than Joe Biden's ever was.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see just from her history in primaries where no one supported her. That she was polling less than Yang when she dropped out.
Oh, Yang had her?
Yeah. Yang is a 3. She was a 2 when she dropped.
Oh,
it was that bad. It was really that bad.
And it's all of her own doing, you know, for you, viewer or listener. I think a good summation of it is that Kamala Harris is the Forrest Gump of the Democratic Party. Over the course of the last 5 years, she's been everywhere in their history in front of a microphone saying something stupid.
Yes. Yeah.
And I mean, the tape's out there.
The tape is out there, much to the chagrin of many journos who have taken upon themselves to sort of correct the record.
Rewrite history.
Yeah, exactly. So coming up on Ruthless, we're going to go through the playbook on how you beat Kamala Harris. King of the Hill's back.
Yep.
King of the Hill's back. We had a meaty rendition of that last week in Milwaukee. We'll have to get back to that. I think I'm up. So, we'll see how that goes. In Variety, it turns out that Donald Trump, he's a good golfer.
Yeah.
There's a great vid out there on YouTube with him golfing with Bryson DeChambeau, and you got to see it. It's fantastic stuff. We'll get to some other stuff. But we're going to get to all of it right after this.
Americans love using their credit cards, the most secure and hassle-free way to pay. But DC politicians want to change that with the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. This bill lets corporate megastores pick how your credit card is processed, allowing them to use untested payment networks that jeopardize your data security and rewards. Corporate megastores will make more money, and you pay the price. Tell Congress to guard your card, because Americans lose when politicians choose. Learn more at guardyourcard.com.
All right. So, look, a little bit of vegetables. We like to do the candy and the vegetables.
But important vegetables.
These are important vegetables because there's an awful lot of people who take a look at Kamala Harris and you just think, God, it's just like the dimmest wit that has ever befallen the American electorate, and how could anybody ever consider a vote for her? But it turns out there are. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're going to have, no matter what, a Democrat somewhere in a 46, 47% range just by virtue of having a D next to their name on a general election ballot, and she starts there. But she has enough undefined area with people who will ultimately vote in a presidential election where you're going to have to do hard work. And I mean that. Like, this needs to be done.
Yep.
The idea that she can't win is insane. She can. She can absolutely win. But not if people do the hard work. And so you take that with where we dropped off with Joe Biden. There was a very, very heavy strength versus weakness, not only stated, but in innuendo in what you could consume and watch between Donald Trump, who obviously is an extremely strong individual and somebody who ran the government in a strengthened way. Plus, he's physically just sort of an imposing figure. And then you look at Joe Biden, frail and everything else, and it all kind of fit together.
It didn't require any explanation.
It didn't. It didn't. None of it. And you could talk every issue fit underneath that deal. Border, crime, economy. Everything that Donald Trump did during the course of his 4 years was a depiction of strength versus what Joe Biden was doing. And then you saw physically, like, he just couldn't do it. So it's like a perfect thing. Like, all these people sort of innately understood that. If you don't follow this stuff, if you're taking kids to softball games and stuff, you're like, yeah, I get that. It's strength versus weakness. It's not exactly the same against Kamala Harris. It's not that she's any stronger than Joe Biden in terms of how she governs, but there's a different physical connotation to all of that. She's younger, she's more vibrant, obviously. What Joe Biden never had, that she has in spades, is the single most radical record and rhetoric of any major party nominee in the history of the United States presidency.
Yeah.
You guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Way, way, way to the left of anyone who's ever run before. And I think it's great to see that Republicans have caught on to this. Mm-hmm. And that's the message, because the American public is not anywhere close to where Kamala Harris is on issues.
It's true.
Wait, it makes the rewriting by the media all the more hilarious. This is an ancient history. She ran for president of the United States 4 years ago.
Yeah, right.
She herself is on the record and ran to the left in that primary, trying to defeat all those other candidates. And ultimately,
calling them all racist in the process.
And ultimately, it was the Democratic Party bosses themselves that were like, whoa, 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 pump the brakes. And then they orchestrated that coup for Joe Biden in South Carolina, right? So, she's not just radical. She's radical by the standards of the Democratic primary electorate. Yeah. Think about that. And now she's up for the big job after not winning a single primary and dropping out of that election before Iowa. It is bonkers. I want everyone to understand that. He's not being hyperbolic. She's the most extreme. So extreme that her own party, she couldn't get to Iowa.
Couldn't get there because they never thought anybody would elect her nationwide. Right. Johnny?
If you're wondering why Joe Biden, who ran as a moderate in 2020, turned out to be a far left-wing lunatic, look no further than the people underneath him, people like Kamala Harris. Remember their first day in office, they basically deleted the entire southern border, and their whole approach to the border is like, yeah, just leave it open. Venezuelan serial killer, they have every right to Social Security, just like you. You know what I mean? Like Tajikistan terrorists, they should get FMLA considerations. Like they think an open border and anybody who wants to come in gets everything that your grandparents and your parents and everybody else in your family should have because they live here and they're citizens.
And she's on video saying as much. Like she was caught in video during that Democrat primary when they ask, do you believe illegal aliens should be given all the rights and afforded all the benefits as soon as they cross that border? Every single one of them raised their hand.
Right.
She's on record saying she supports that.
I love the FMLA insertion.
That's what they want. I mean, it's literally when you
Family
think
Medical Leave Act.
when you think about the specifics of what
you should
they
definitely get 6 months off your Ecuadorian.
exactly right. How else are they going to plan their next attack? I mean, for crying out loud.
It's a sleeper cell criteria. But look, I've gone through the book now. And I remembered a lot of it, but a lot of it I didn't. And it really is a bonanza of horrific stuff. And I don't care what you're into. Look, there are issues. You poll the American people, you even poll your friends. People care about different stuff. Mostly the economy and things like that, which there's a ton of different facets like that, like, giving college loan, wiping that away and making a tradesman pay for it.
Right.
Right. Things like that. I mean, there's plenty. But like each and every little niche, like healthcare. Oh, do you like your healthcare? Remember do you like your healthcare? You can keep it. Well, not with Kamala.
No, she literally says on video, let's do away with that.
Do away with private insurance.
Yeah.
Like, the way that you get healthcare?
Yeah.
Like, you can't do that anymore. Now you got to go wait in the DMV line. I mean, that's just like a little niche. Energy. We talked a lot about this on the show last week. She was like, absolutely, let's do away with fracking. Let's do away with drilling, all American energy.
Offshore drilling.
Yeah,
She said all fossil fuels.
All fossil
all
fuels.
She's like, cut them
fossil
all
fuels.
off.
Cut
All
them
those
all
American
off.
jobs, let's just wipe them out.
Drive to work while you can.
She's even on board with like reducing red meat consumption.
Yeah.
Like she goes down the rabbit hole.
It's like
It's serious.
Like that's the stuff that
Yeah.
AOC, when the draft of the Green New Deal
Yeah.
came out,
She was like, this is embarrassing.
they're like, we couldn't do that. They crossed that one out. They're
yeah,
like, that's
remember?
too much for us.
Banning cow farts.
Yeah. She's like, nope.
No, I want to be serious.
Until you can strap a catalytic converter to the ass of a cow, I'm out. Right? I
Yeah,
mean, it's basically taxes. She wants them to go up across the board. She wants to have an 18% tax increase on corporate America. What do you think that does for jobs here in this country?
Not good.
Like what? She has no concern about small businesses, no concern about individual tax rates. All of it just more tax rate to fund the government that she apparently wants to do. Have you heard her talking about like trying to explain the war in Ukraine?
Oh, that Ukraine
that
is a country?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ukraine is a country.
It's a smaller country than Russia.
It's smaller.
Yeah.
And the bigger country wanted to take some parts of Ukraine.
Yeah.
And so now we have a problem.
Yeah.
Like that
Absolute expertise right there. Like top-notch stuff.
basic understanding. But like it's not enough as conservatives to just like dismiss all this stuff as complete insanity because people think you're joking about it. We're not joking about it.
Yeah.
And I thought the one campaign in America that did the best job of putting a very fine point on what the message ought to be was Dave McCormick in Pennsylvania. If we can play that video, it's clip 2, Spaghettis.
Kamala Harris is inspiring and very
Starts with
capable.
his
The
opponent,
more people get to know
Bob
her, they're going to
Casey,
be
Nepo
particularly
Bob.
impressed by her ability.
The nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator.
I am prepared to get rid of the filibuster to pass a Green New Deal. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes.
What is the solution for voters in the fossil fuel industry?
Giving the workers an ability to transition. We're not going to treat people who are undocumented and cross the border as criminals. criminals. That's correct.
Raise your hand if you think it should be a civil offense rather than a crime to cross the border without documentation.
Abolish ICE. Yeah. Is that a position you agree with?
And we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
Outdated, it is wrong-headed thinking to think that the only way you're going to get communities to be safe is to put more police officers on the street.
Would you support changing the dietary guidelines?
Yes.
The food pyramid. What people
yes.
to reduce red meat specifically.
Yes.
People who are convicted in prison, like the Boston Marathon bomber, on death row, people who are convicted of sexual assault, they should be able to vote?
I think we should have that conversation.
We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program.
So for people out there who like their insurance, well, they don't get to keep it?
Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on.
I'm opposed to any policy that would deny any human being public health, period.
The more people get to know her, they're going to be particularly impressed by her ability.
We did it, Joe.
Oh. I mean, that is
brutal.
There it is.
Easton baseball bat to the middle of the forehead.
Right, and the reason why that's so important, we got into this right before you watched the video, is that the media cannot rewrite her own words. Mm-hmm. We're in a situation where yesterday you had some media outlets saying that she wasn't actually the border czar after they wrote that she was the border czar.
Right.
You have this organization, GovTrack, that called her the furthest left-wing senator in the Senate. They're now saying, well, we're revising and extending our
they
position.
deleted that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So the journos are trying to cover up for her history. What they can't cover up for is the video, and we have it.
And that's the thing, is that there is a custom-made clip for anything you care about. I mean, look, I know that there's a bunch of different opinions on the issue of abortion in this country, and I know that Democrats want to push that because they think they have a majority advantage on it. But if her first campaign stop of the entire year is to the abortion store, what does that tell you about what she thinks about mainstream? You know, it's one thing to have an argument about whether abortion should be safe, legal, and rare, as Democrats used to say, or, you know, something else. But it's quite another when you're actually showing up at the place and promoting their services.
And that's the thing is, you know, the way that the Democrat Party has radicalized on this issue, where you'll see, like, at these rallies, a mother being like, you know, I have a 5-year-old daughter and I don't want her to grow up in a world where she can't get an abortion. It's like, are you concerned about the fact that your daughter may not ever be able to afford a house and it may not be safe where she grows up? Because you have Kamala being like, yeah, I don't think police make people safe.
Yeah. I mean, that was the thing that really struck me and sort of the common thread through all of this. And I think it's important for Republicans to stay focused on this message. And that is, you remember the Barack Obama message was like, this guy's going to fundamentally transform America.
Yeah.
Like Kamala Harris would destroy it.
Yeah.
Like point blank. Like abolish ICE, decriminalize illegal aliens crossing the border / police budgets, do away with private health insurance. Like she would change. She would change American society forever.
Right. With Obama, we were watching videos of Jeremiah Wright saying, "No, goddamn America."
It wasn't him.
With this, we've got Kamala Harris saying, "You lose your health care.
Yeah.
You lose your police protection. You lose the border. The border that we deleted, we're not bringing it back."
And not for nothing, but I mean, look, her ability to relate to working class America is non-existent.
Absolutely non-existent.
It's non-existent, you know? And like Obama, who I think is like one of the worst presidents in the history of this country, for better or worse, had an ability to relate to people, right? It got him a lot further down the road than it would have just with his policies because he was able to do that kind of thing. This is a lady, she's never even run against a Republican before.
No.
I mean,
she hasn't.
Great point.
It's really incredible that they have put themselves in a corner because they were like, well, shit, we're out of ideas. The party elites, we've got 24 hours to decide after we throw Joe out the window what we're going to do here. And they're stuck with her. That's the thing is, like you saw in the video, the positions that she took are the ones that they are now going to have to defend. Like when Holmes says that her basement's lower than Joe Biden, that's why.
Yeah, but I think they're banking on, like, look, Joe Biden's numbers are historically bad with young voters for a Democrat, historically bad with minorities for a Democrat. So bad that by comparison, Kamala Harris's numbers with those groups, it'll be a little bit of a sugar high for the Democrats because it's like impossible to be that
although
low.
CNN came out with a poll today,
right,
that showed she's doing even worse.
Yeah. Well, so
I think those come back.
Move. I think it's going to move here over these next 3 weeks and ahead of their convention and everything, especially with all the hard work the media is doing, changing her record.
Yeah.
But like, I think at the end of the day, the record is so much more damaging to Kamala Harris than even Joe Biden's record.
It completely is. I totally agree with that. And then just like fast forward to modern day, this is an ancient history. Like you said, it's all within the last 4 years. But look at yesterday. Like, can you imagine a White House of either party deciding, and Joe, I don't know where Joe's giving an Oval Office address or whatever. Who knows what he's up to. But like, there's a proactive decision not to appear with the best ally that America's ever had in the Middle East. I mean, that was unthinkable 10 years ago, guys. Like Barack Obama, we were talking about Barack Obama, he would never have blown that off. Never.
I just don't understand it. Their party has lost their way on that issue because it wasn't just Kamala and Joe Biden boycotting, but they went all the way down the seniority of the Democrats to get to Ben Cardin.
The guy who's not running for re-election.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think about that. It's only John Fetterman who put on a suit and cared about
Not a single member of Democratic leadership stood behind.
I don't understand it, but I have a feeling it's going to have an impact on their vote this fall.
It just embodies this larger thing, which is they're actually way more radical than you think. Yep. And like, if you thought for 1 second that Joe Biden was as bad as it can get, like, I got news for you.
Yep.
Like, you won't recognize your country. And I mean that. I'm not saying that like hyperbolically. You just absolutely will not.
You heard it from her own mouth.
That's the thing.
It's what she intends to do. And not only that she intends to do, what she intended to do when she ran for president already. She's literally doing it again.
And, and symbolic of that, I don't know if you guys saw this image, but they already hung the California state flag up at their national campaign headquarters. Did you guys see that?
I did see
like
that.
Anybody else in America wants their state to look like California. Very funny. Dave Weigel tweeted about it, and he wrote, "Wilmington has fallen."
I mean, when you say she fundamentally will change the country on just one single thing, taking away health insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, you see this, you hear the stories in Britain of like, oh, well, you have to wait 6 months for a heart transplant. Cross your fingers that you make it. Even in Canada, just to get simple procedure done, 6 to 9 months.
I think it's important, like, all of this stuff, like one by one, are like disqualifying things to the center of the electorate. I think the broader story, one thing that Donald Trump has benefited from, since that debate, has been Donald Trump's the stability candidate.
We know what he did for 4 years.
We know what he did for 4 years. And so, like, I think a thematic here against Kamala Harris is just how much she would disrupt the America that we know and love.
Yeah, and just pull it for even further.
She is the chaos candidate.
Yep.
She really is. But also, if you think about it, and this is like going to be, minds will blow wide open in the journo universe by saying this, but it's 100% true. All things considered, ideologically speaking, Donald Trump's probably the most moderate candidate that either party has nominated in the last 50 years. I mean, there is no like ideological rigidity. He's certainly conservative, but he's not like anywhere near any of his primary opponents in that regard. In fact, that was like the primary critique of Donald Trump by like DeSantis, even Nikki Haley, was like his commitment to conservative principles. And then contrast that with the other side. You've got this wild ideologue who wants to fundamentally remake America. And like, that is true. That's not hyperbole. Like, they just don't think that this country has been very good.
Yeah.
And they think what would be a lot better is if you put them in charge of your health care, if they bought your car for you, monitored where it would be that you'd go, which, by the way, that's part of that deal with the electric mandate.
Right.
Take away your police.
Take away your police.
Yeah, you get assaulted, and a couple hours later, a counselor shows up.
A counselor shows up.
You don't get your purse back.
And the counselor talks to the criminal.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, I wonder, did you have a bad upbringing?
And like everybody forgets the fact that she was during the BLM riots, not only giving voice to the BLM riots, like encouraging the BLM riots in 2020, she was actively fundraising for a bail fund for people who are burning down the city of Minneapolis, many of whom
reoffended.
reoffended. There was recidivism, direct recidivism.
And I'm not talking
on violent crimes.
Right. I'm not talking about people who went out and got arrested again in another protest. Like, I'm talking about a guy who went out, and like put a guy in a coma.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like brain damage.
She did that.
She did that.
And that's not, there's no other way around it. Like, that is who she is. Now, they're going to try their very best to, like, make young and vibrant and have her talk about stuff that doesn't offend people.
She's going to be the meme queen.
Oh,
yeah, they're going to make this race about everything other than the people who are voting for these candidates.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's about her. It's about culture. It's not about the people who are depending on something different from their government, who want something completely different than they've had for the last 4 years, who want safety, who want health care, who want a tax system and less inflation where they can actually feed their families for what they're getting paid for in their job.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so here's where I like this thing. So obviously we were in a good place in a Trump v. Biden electorate. There was some certainty in terms of the durability of a lead. That certainty is gone. But where the strength of Donald Trump and Republicans have been in 2024 is based on how the American people feel about the way they've governed.
Yep.
And if you look at those issue silos, 7 of the 8 favor Republicans and Donald Trump by a big margin. That was over a considerably more moderate Joe Biden compared to Kamala Harris. So I think you have further to fall on an awful lot of that on the Democratic side. But I think prosecuting a case on this is one that we haven't seen for 2 years. I mean, they've taken Joe Biden from 51 down to 42 in a year and a half just based upon him wandering around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking about this morning because I was talking with Perino and Hemmer, and my thought was like, they were talking about how he's going to explore the virtues of the Inflation Reduction Act. And I thought, well, the only reason that they still feel comfortable talking about the Inflation Reduction Act, which unbelievably raised inflation, like to the eyes and ears of everyone who experienced it, is because no one's focused on it. Because it's been one continuous process story for a year and a half about whether Joe Biden's going to make it to the finish line.
Yeah.
That's all we've talked about. If you actually dig in on this stuff, it's offensive to almost everybody. And in the states that matter, Pennsylvania, all right, let's go ban every single capability of natural gas, fracking, all your energy production, all that stuff, hundreds of thousands of people out of work. All right, let's start there. Now let's see what it looks like. Michigan, Wisconsin, go try to talk to working class people about taking away their health care and raising their taxes.
Yep.
Try to do that stuff with stuff that actually hits in the pocketbook.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't had that conversation.
Dude, I remember just being up in Milwaukee and talking to our Uber driver who was like, we don't know where these immigrants are coming from, but like, they just show up. The bus stop's over there.
Yeah.
They get dropped off there. There's the train station where they loiter. And it's like, this stuff is hitting real communities. Like, it is not theoretical. It's not just like, oh, they were at Martha's Vineyard, whatever. They're all over these states that are going to be in play here in November.
Yeah, and 50% of the fare on the drive that he just took over just goes and vanishes into the government,
right?
Where they're paying for the bus fare to get him there. Then they're paying for the meal and the housing and everything else. And meanwhile, you got the border czar down there who hadn't gone to the border for 6 months.
Yeah, I read a story that the last 2 heads of Border Patrol never had a conversation with Kamala Harris.
Think about that.
Never a conversation.
Do you remember, what was that congressman's name? He's on the border, Gonzalez. On the border, and just talking about, he was on the show talking about all the tragedy down there, like just body bags everywhere, and they had to go find different vendors to have more body bags on the border because of the humanitarian plight that was going on down there. And I said, have you ever heard from the White House? He was like, no. I was like, well, I just saw Biden appoint Kamala Harris like in charge of what you're talking about. Has she ever called you? This is the guy whose district it was that people are coming across. Never talked to her. Never talked to her. Right? I mean, these are the real things. So, like, look, we've had like this sort of fun conversation about what this election is matched up with. But this is the real shit.
Yep.
We're here. And Republicans are going to have to get very active at pushing this stuff. And whatever you're into, if you're the foreign policy guy, let's go talk about how she talks about foreign policy.
Yeah.
If you're the healthcare guy, let's go talk about banning private health insurance.
It's like you walked into Baskin Robbins and there's 31 flavors.
Yeah, it's
know?
something for everyone.
Yeah.
And there's a constituency for everything out there in the country. You just got to go find it. Make sure that they understand what it is that we're dealing with here, because it's catastrophic. This lady is something else. So anyway, we wanted to ask a question, and we're going to get to your questions from Tuesday after this. But our question is, what do you think is the most important thing to beat Kamala Harris? We've gone over some of this here. But you all live in different communities throughout this country. I want to know in your community, what is it that you think is the number one thing? What is it, her quote? It could be that she's just like a crazy person and everybody thinks that like she's not capable of doing the job. I believe that. There's a healthy segment that's already baked in on that. Or it could be something that we talked about before. But make sure you put it in your comments, and you can do that on YouTube. Remember, like it first.
Yep.
You got to like it first.
Like and subscribe if you want to opine. That's what I always say.
Like it and subscribe. But we read all of these things, and we get an awful lot of help formulating our thinking based upon what you said. So last Tuesday, we asked who will Kamala pick as
We
VP.
got some great comments here.
We got some great stuff. I mean, some really good stuff. And this is, again, awesome deal. Let's go to the Voice.
Okay, this first one comes from Pammy Saylor, and Pammy writes, Andy Bashir seems like the logical choice because he's a Midwest moderate-type Dem. I sure hope he says no. I'm hoping it's AOC. Those two would be hysterical as a ticket. Pammy, here's where I disagree. I hope it's Andy Bashir, because there would be nothing more fun than humiliating that guy from sea to shining sea.
And do we settle on whether he was a rich white or a full-bodied?
He is both. My friend, he is both. And he's very soft and has never really taken a punch. And I just think that
elements of fruit forward as well, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Okay, so I mean, he's like the full panoply. Maybe a good choice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Dunks?
Varietal.
This is
Varietal.
This is from Susanna TX. Mark Kelly. He's likable, and you would never guess he's so far left. I agree with that. That I think it's as a man who's grown some facial hair recently, I think the mustache is disarming, and you think of him as like, oh, he's just
he is a chameleon.
Could be just a nice dad.
There has never once been a disarming mustache.
Oh no, for sure.
Really?
I mean, I think
I'd like your thoughts and comments on that too. By the way,
I think Tom Selleck would disagree with you.
Well,
I think he disarmed.
You make a good point. The Selleck is maybe a different.
Yeah, but I
maybe
think,
an exception to the rule though.
Maybe. But look, I think it might be a good pick here. If you believe the conventional wisdom that what's more in play for Kamala as it stands right now is like the Sun Belt, the Georgias and Arizonas of the battleground states, picking a guy from Arizona that makes a lot of sense. And he's an astronaut, I mean, there's a story to tell them.
I don't know. I don't think that whoever she picks is going to be able to deliver their state. John Edwards didn't deliver North Carolina for John Kerry. And, I mean, you're great. Mark Kelly, fine. Whoever she picks, whether it's a light and crispy, a full-bodied, or
I mean,
or
he
just
is a
mixed white,
lukewarm glass of milk.
Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah.
You could run into him on the street tomorrow and have no idea who he is. He's just like, he is what he is.
But if they do pick him, I think you're right, Duncan. If they do pick him, the media is going to write Arizona's off the table.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris just sewed it up with Mark Kelly. You know what I mean? They're just going to lie.
Do you see, by the way, speaking of Mark Kelly, so the PRO Act, it's that radical union thing.
Yeah.
Where they basically just force all franchises to like be taken over by a corporate entity and then provide all of these services as if they're a multinational company, and they're all owned by people who
like people who live in your community.
Yeah, they sponsor the local baseball little league team.
Right.
Right.
And now they're the bad guy.
Yeah, so the PRO Act makes those people like enemy A1A. And he was like, I'm not totally comfortable with that for, I don't know, 6 years. And then now that he's on the short list, they asked him, he's like, oh, no, I'd be the first one.
Yeah, he's like, I do it day one.
Instant flip-flop.
Tell you what.
And that's him. He's flip-flopped God knows how many times, and he tries to project this image of he's like, oh, I'm a centrist. Always votes for the Democrats.
Yeah.
Always votes.
Never a question. All right, Smuggles, what do we got?
This is from Christy Walsh at QC Christy on YouTube. She writes, this is purely anecdotal, and Smug likely knows way more than me, but I don't think adding Roy Cooper to the ticket is going to do them any favors in NC. Cooper was terrible on COVID lockdowns, and he continues to be terrible on the economy, education, crime, and allowing more and more illegals into the state to drain community resources. But we'll gladly let the Dems have him. Excellent comment, and this is a person who knows what they're talking about. We are blessed in North Carolina to now have a Republican supermajority in the legislature, and the number of times they have to override Roy Cooper because he's a lunatic.
Yeah.
Just like she said, on all these policies, soft on crime, horrible on the COVID lockdowns. Once we got that Republican supermajority to override him, it's gotten the state in a better place. We need to elect Mark Robinson. The Dems can have him. When I heard that Roy Cooper's on the short list, I was like, get him out. Get him out.
I kind of think he makes sense. Like,
totally.
If you think about
the second he leaves the mansion, Mark Robinson gavels in as lieutenant governor, and we get to work.
Yeah, yeah, right.
It's terrific.
But I mean, I think that this guy, he has no real pathway to national success. I mean,
you're saying his profile makes him a likely choice to say yes.
Yeah, I mean, I bet he's bending over backwards to try to figure that out. Right?
100%.
I mean, he's the one. Mark Kelly actually fits this to a certain extent. Andy Bashir, although he's pretty young and maybe things change, although I don't know if they change that much.
Yeah, Cooper's term limited. He's like, I'm looking for my next gig.
But like you look at like Gretchen Whitmer, who's got a very clear Democratic primary path, along with Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania, and the two of them are like, first of all, she's like, no thanks.
Yeah.
And then he's like, you notice how silent it's been out of that camp. They're like, what else is going on?
He's probably worried they'll find out he's Jewish.
Yeah, right.
That's
like,
not safe to be Jewish in the Democratic Party.
I can't visit you guys in D.C. for an interview right now. It's not safe.
It's not safe. Yeah, anyway, I think that makes some sense, and I do agree. The guy's just...
Great comment.
Not great. Okay, so we're going to get to a lot more, including King of the Hill, fellas.
Yes.
And we're going to get to it right after this.
Folks, let me tell you about my friends at Americans for Prosperity, America's largest grassroots organization. Americans for Prosperity is out there every day fighting for you. Their goal, reignite the American dream. AFP's priorities are simple: secure the border, end inflation, make energy more affordable. And AFP gets results the old-fashioned way, through grassroots activism. They bring together like-minded conservatives, turning them into a grassroots army, and defeating the left's terrible big government agenda in the states and in Washington. And that's where you come in. With the media, celebrities, and universities stacked against us, it's the grassroots that will help us win. So please find an Americans for Prosperity chapter in your state and get in the fight. Go to americansforprosperity.org.
All right. So, King of the Hill, we're back. Who's the champion of this sucker?
Sherry Jacobus.
Sherry Jacobus. I got roasted. Absolutely roasted in Milwaukee. I mean, it didn't stand a chance. She just brought hot fire. So, I guess, does that make me judge?
No, you're bailiff.
Oh, I'm bailiff.
And I was honestly terrified in Milwaukee when you were reading Sherry Jacobus's tweets, because they are all like FBI, Secret Service, knock on the door, and you're like reading them on a loudspeaker. I'm looking around at like 50 dudes.
Parody, with
we're
rifles.
Laughing. Yeah, we were like, parody, please. We aren't saying this. We're reading her
Yeah, you
tweets.
said like 5 times, this isn't our words.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a good thought. I'm glad you thought of it. They may have charged our
that place
station.
was locked down. It was safe.
Yeah, it really was. I'm bringing a newcomer, fellas. I'm bringing Michael Steele.
Yes.
Great.
Former RNC chair.
Yes.
MSNBC personality. Michael Steele.
I will be an unbiased judge, but I saw Minions tagging us all on some of Michael Steele's tweets.
Yeah.
I was like, bro.
I may need to file some amicus briefs. I did see this content.
It was some fire.
Champion starts.
No, let's go ringside.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. It's time for King of the Hill. In the red corner, fighting from MSNBC, Michael Steele with an E. And now, in the blue corner, fighting from our own Twitter account and current champion of the world, Kami Jerry Jacobus.
Kami Sherry. That in live and in person, I think people truly appreciated in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
You could see the crowd just start gathering around. They
I mean,
were
that's
like,
the
"What
thing
is
is,
this?"
if when you see it live, you're like, I'm witnessing real talent here.
Steele with an E. Huh?
Rhymes with MSNB, and it's not the other Michael Steele.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
Our friend of the
The other one is the Republican.
Yeah, he's a friend of the That's exactly right.
All right, champion goes first.
Okay, exhibit number 4, please. And Jerry Jacobus, she is quote tweeting a news update about how the Secret Service doesn't want Trump to do outdoor events. And she says, Trump chooses to hold very dangerous open-air outdoor rallies, making it nearly impossible for the Secret Service to protect him. He refused to pay for secure indoor air-conditioned venues. She's attacking him as being cheap because he had a rally outside.
This is what
It's
you
his
say
fault.
to someone who took a bullet.
Yeah,
and
it's his fault.
like you're the kind of radical who inspired that kind of shit.
Right.
What an insane person. All right. Let me just drop a nuke here at the beginning. Spaghetti, can we get exhibit 3 up? Hey, real Donald Trump, you ready for this?
Oh, my goodness.
And it's a picture of Kamala Harris in a kind of a Wonder Woman.
I think it's Captain America.
Captain America, sort of a hybrid outfit.
Is there any possibility of zooming in on this image? For the folks?
We can't.
So this was one of the ones the Minions sent in. Notice the character to her right.
Yes.
It's AI. It's got an arm growing out of its head.
Dude, you stole my shit. That was where I was going to go if it got rocky.
Hey, he's the judge. Let him steal whatever he wants.
I mean,
you got to let him go with it. He's the judge.
The fact that it's a bad AI image, in addition to just being an AI. I mean, dude, is this guy insane?
Do you think he made it? Like he
No
inputted
way.
the
No
search term?
way, dude. I don't think he can open a PDF.
he definitely someone tweeted out. He was like, "Hey, you know what? I am going to tweet this out."
Yes.
And for the folks at home who are not on YouTube, this is the reason to subscribe, to see this kind of silly shit that you missed out on. Oh, and she's got 2 shields.
Two shields.
The AI was really lost on this, but
bad AI.
I don't think as lost as former RNC chairman Michael Steele pushing Kamala as Captain America. Round 1 goes to the challenger, Michael Steele.
Wow.
I mean, what a clown.
We got an upset
What an
brewing.
absolute clown. All right, so I think I'm going to go to exhibit 2, please. So exhibit 2, he is quote tweeting a truth by Donald Trump that he's explaining his triumphant, shall we say, appearance over Joe Biden, and then talking about whatever future debates should be. And he just simply says, already afraid to debate VP Harris, Donald? Setting up the reason.
It's like
setting up the reason.
You'd think as a Democrat you could just take a beat on talking about debates.
The last time you guys asked for a debate, you had to switch candidates. This guy's like,
and again,
there's the reason.
And again, it was on their terms. They're like, we want CNN at this time, at this date, at these rules. Joe needs a chair. Oh, he's currently fine in our opinion. It's like, learn. What does it take for you people to realize he will show up and just mop the floor with
The only thing Donald Trump is worried about is if he schedules it too early and Kamala will drop out.
Gonna have another. Well, pretty soon Whitmer and Shapiro are gonna be ticket mates.
They actually end up with a good candidate.
Kamala should be like, debate day of election, folks. Don't let him replace me.
She's gonna wait till it's absolutely impossible to print ballots without her
the
name.
ballots are already out, folks.
Oh my God. Anyway, so that's what I got.
Okay, my submission, exhibit number 5, please. Cherry writes, we women of a certain age have spent our lives with sexism, the overt kind and the subtle kind. We know exactly what Kamala Harris is encountering, and we have her back. So my question is she talking about like Kamala's boss, Joe Biden, is being sexist toward her? Like, is he sniffing her hair, and we're not seeing that? What exactly is she talking about? Because at last I checked, Kamala Harris is the number 2 person in the entire country.
And
she has one boss.
This I think goes hand in hand with the discussion we just had about there's a million hits on Kamala of like how she wants health insurance to go, how she deleted the border. They want to try to be like, sexism. So any kind of actual discussion on how this person has horrible ideas doesn't get discussed.
Right.
They want to be like, oh, the reason you disagree is sexism.
Yeah. I mean, just...
Get the hell out of here.
Kill me.
Yeah, dude. Just Wednesday morning, there were people quote tweeting a video clip of Kill Me trying to claim he said colored colleges instead of, or colored sororities instead of college sororities.
Which was obviously
college sororities. You know?
And they had the video clip, and like everyone who played was like, I think he said college sororities. And like Phil Lewis at Huffington Post put out a tweet of that video earlier, and then within like 30 minutes he took it down. He's like, I listened to this closely, folks. It's clearly college sororities.
Right.
The rest of them kept it up.
Yeah,
of course they
Eugene
did,
Daniels,
because they want to gin it up.
One of Ashbrook's best friends, Eugene Daniels, kept it up because he wanted that online clout.
I mean, just sort of wild though when you're like the head of the White House
Correspondence
Association.
Yeah.
To like jump on a like it's like a aggregator account that tries to make fun of Fox.
Yeah.
And like not have like the sense to be like, maybe this is a setup. You know what I mean?
Well, and I'd heard, I don't know if this is true because I hadn't actually seen this, but I'd heard in her remarks today she incorporated.
Are you kidding?
Are you kidding?
I heard, or was planning on incorporating. Maybe they pulled it out, but that's what I heard.
It would be disgusting if that becomes their game because they are unable to defend her insane position.
I don't think like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It is going to happen. This next 100 days is going to be the wildest. And it's like, and it's incumbent on us and everybody who's watching this and listening to this.
Yes.
Like, get ready. Like it's, you're going to have to push back on stuff every day.
So in summation for exhibit number 5, Democrats are trying to change the subject any way they can. Cherry Jacobus is doing it too.
And it's hilarious, but also I think critical and a good point to bring up for all our listeners. For round 2 goes to Crazy Sherry.
Wow.
Okay. All right.
Wow. Third round.
Let's go.
Exhibit number 7, please. Cherry Jacobus. Mediocre GOP men are about to find out. Hashtag FAFO.
What's that mean?
I don't know.
What?
We didn't look that up.
This is one of my favorite varieties of a Sherry tweet where it's like there's just no context. It's almost like a serial killer note.
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't know. The house cats are jazzed, though. You know, they love that stuff. They love it. Get them again. Get them again, Sherry.
Yeah.
Okay. Exhibit 1. I like this for several reasons. This is Michael Steele. He's responding to an NBC News report that Jim Clyburn was endorsing VP Harris. Never mind the fact, by the way, that Clyburn said about 6 weeks ago that he would endorse Harris if Biden went somewhere. Well, anyway, that happened this week. The vice president is gaining rapid support for some key corners of the Democratic Party, while Republicans and Trump call on Biden to resign because, wait for it, if he can't run for re-election, he's unable and unfit to serve as president. I guess they must want President Harris to kick Trump's ass as opposed to presidential candidate Harris.
Oh, body bag. Body bag.
You know what I also love about this is like it touches on the topic that they absolutely don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
They all knew for how long? Because when he says that, like, oh, well, Republicans are saying he's unfit to run, or he's unfit to be president if he can't run. Dude, by saying that this is the situation, how many people knew? Kamala Harris knew. We got that Wall Street Journal article saying that in what was October of 2021, Biden tried going to Capitol Hill and having a meeting and was essentially a vegetable. And that's the last time he went to Capitol Hill.
And they became concerned.
I
think was the word.
When they were like, do we call a medic? Is he okay?
Yeah.
And that was 2021. Like, bring it up, dude. Like, talk about that subject. And it's unbelievable what they do.
They do. And they just sort of like brush past. He's like, just wait for it.
Yeah.
Like there's a like it's unquestionable that Joe Biden, we haven't seen him, by the way, until last night, We haven't seen him for a week.
Yeah.
Like literally nothing. No proof of life.
President of the United States.
President of the United States. Nobody's seen him. He's like, wait for it.
Right.
And
Right.
So he may not be fit to serve.
Michael Steele was a Republican candidate for statewide office in Maryland, and
Yes.
today's to the left of Angela Alsobrooks. He's a lunatic.
A green room's a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
It really is.
So, in light of that body of work, and I think the only mediocre thing in that tweet was Sherry.
Yeah.
There had to have been a better round 3. We got a new champion.
Hey,
Michael Steele with an E, folks.
Michael
Wow.
Steele with an E.
And I mean, this is like a new champion.
It's a new champion and his first time out. Everybody's very excited. Steel headquarters is going wild.
yeah.
MSNBC green room, they're just popping champagne.
They're popping champagne. People are loving it. You should see Maddow. She's off the top ropes in there. It's just it's outstanding. Okay, so we got a little bit of stuff we want to show you in Variety. Let's show you clip number 3. You're going to love this. Just a dart.
Dart right down the middle.
That's Trump hitting an
Get
absolute
up there.
diamond.
Get up. Yes. Yes.
He just greened it from the tee
Way to
box.
go.
Yeah.
That's a par 4.
There you
Just
go. Nice.
drops
Eagle.
the putt for an eagle.
Yeah. And a solo eagle. He's playing with Bryson DeChambeau, and Trump solo eagled that hole. Now, they were playing from the red tees. It was for charity. It was like how far you could go under a par. The other thing I love in that video clip, at the beginning, Trump's teeing off. His golf cart is rolled right up to the tee box. It's right up onto the tee box.
Well, if you notice
Like,
later,
I know.
if you watch the whole thing,
Yeah.
they're driving up and talking, which, by the way, the whole thing, you ought to go find it on YouTube because it's absolutely classic. It's Trump at his absolute best, right?
I mean, I think that would be the best way to hang out with Trump.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
he is like, he's in his element. This is like Aquaman under the ocean.
Yeah.
Like when Joe Biden was like, I gotta golf you, there's a reason Trump laughed.
Yeah.
It's like, I've seen your swing, buddy.
Yeah.
You are not an 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, but I'm watching him drive up, and he's just like, there's been rumors for years that he just drives right onto the green and putts.
Yeah.
Sure enough.
Yeah. Hey, look, if it's your course, you can do whatever you want. The other thing I love about him when he's playing golf, I saw one clip on Twitter the other night, and like DeChambeau's asking him like, "What tunes? Like, give me a top 10 list." And he's like, "Oh, I gotcha." And he's like on an iPad or something, and he's just like firing up Conte Partiro
Yes, I saw
by Andrea Bocelli.
He was like a little old for
He
you.
just like the guy is just in his element on a golf course, which is just. And you know what else is funny? I'm sure some of you guys might have felt this way too, but like, I used to not really like DeChambeau either. Really turned it around on the Ryder Cup, number 1, which America, obviously. And then like he does a ton of content on YouTube now, and is like now you can see a lot more of his personality.
He's personality plus.
Dude, I love the guy now.
I love the guy.
Yeah.
And how he handled all of that with Trump was just hysterical. And you could tell by the end of it, he was like, Jesus, it's not a rumor. This guy's freaking good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
He's good. And remember, like, look, Trump, he's still in his mid-late 70s. He's hitting the ball 230 straight as an arrow, 4 feet from the cup on a par 4.
Yeah.
Well, you can see why he dominates everybody at his club and the member.
Totally.
I mean, you can see why he's got multiple club championships.
You can.
And the thing
Not
is,
senior either.
Not senior.
Yeah, I love what he says.
He crushes it on the course, and then he'll knock out like a 2-hour rally. Anyone who's been to a rally,
Oh, yeah, those
it's
are
like,
hard.
I didn't know I could stand and be screaming for that long. The guy will go for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Just having a blast. And then he'll roll up and just end Joe Biden's career on a debate stage. It's just like, standard month. Take a bullet and get back up. He's like, it's just, that's right. It's just a July, folks.
He ended in one calendar month. He ended a 54-year political career, took a bullet, flew to Milwaukee, accepted the nomination, named a VP, and then now leads by 4.
I mean, that is sick.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty good.
That's probably
month.
the best July a person's ever had.
I mean, it's incredible.
Just
And I
absolutely
never
unbelievable.
would have thought that would be the case 6 months ago.
Never. Never. None of it.
just-
None of it I thought was anywhere near, but that's where we are. And look, Democrats are a danger.
Yep.
Kamala Harris is a danger. Just remember that, guys. She is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
She is a problem. Like we've got to communicate this. This is not about bank shots off Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Like, oh, she knew that he was getting old. Sure she did.
Yeah, it's like the 25th Amendment stuff and all of that. Okay, fine. But like, let's keep our eye on the prize, and that is this election. Like, is Kamala Harris a DEI hire? Okay, maybe, yeah, technically, because Joe Biden said, I'm going to nominate a black woman. But it's beside the point. She's running for the big job. She's more unqualified for that one than the other one she wasn't qualified for.
Right.
So why does it matter?
Right.
Don't worry about the irrelevant stuff. Stay focused on the task at hand, and that is every crazy shit thing she said, push that out.
That's
Make
the thing.
sure your friends and neighbors know about it. You got to do it. It's the only way to do it.
And it's easy to compare. Remember what it was like under Trump? Business was booming. Everyone was like, oh, our interest rates are so low. Everyone was buying houses. Everyone was thinking we have a bright future ahead. Look at what Kamala wants for your future.
Yeah.
And it's horrifying.
It's horrifying. Very well said, gentlemen. Very well said. We got a little bit of business to do. We're going to talk about a great sponsor of our program, Lumen. I know you're a user of this operation.
Absolutely.
Terrific stuff.
Great. It's easy to use. Lumen, basically, every morning you wake up, you grab your Lumen, you hit the button, you exhale, you inhale, and it tells you exactly what your metabolism is doing. And when I say exactly, it'll tell you, you don't have to think about it. It'll tell you, here's what your diet should look like. You know, while you were sleeping, you were burning fat or you're burning carbs. So here's what you should eat. Here's when you should eat. It makes all the decisions for you easy, because I know there's like a lot of like smart rings. I know people use the Apple Watch, whatever. It's like it'll give you info, and it's like, okay, what the hell does HRV mean? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Lumen's like, here's what you do. Here's what's going on. That's it.
Well, yeah.
You do it once in the morning, you're done.
And
That's
it was developed by a PhD, right? So
Yeah.
you know the results are reliable.
Well, what I like about it is, like, for people who are extremely busy but like wanna like plan to eat healthy throughout the day, or maybe they travel a lot for work and
Yes.
stuff, and it's like getting those meal plans and stuff shipped to your house might not make sense for you.
Yep.
Like, Lumen gives you an insight into like what you should be eating, but the flexibility of like being a person on the go and being
Yeah, you're
like,
going to have to be
this-
out eating something
right.
somewhere. and
You don't get
can't-
to choose, and it's like you can't follow some strict, meal plan. But like, here now, you got a device that'll tell you what to eat.
The only thing that it doesn't do is detect COVID.
Yeah.
Because if they did that, our friend here would probably be in a different situation. Because he's a good user of Lumen. It's trimmed you down. You look terrific.
It does its job.
It does its job. So if you want to take your next step in improving your health, you go to lumen.me/ruthless to get 15% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/ruthless for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. With that, fellas, listen, I think we kind of covered it. Remember our question here. What is it that you think that we need to do in order to beat Kamala Harris? And I'm interested in your local. Get as local as you can get on that stuff. We want to hear from you on all that. I think we had a hell of a week here, fellas. Mm-hmm. I think we did it.
I think so. Absolute banger of an episode. Gentlemen, thank you so much to the Minions. We love seeing our numbers go up. Remember, if you have not yet, subscribe. And if you have subscribed, hit like on that episode. So until next time, Minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Tuesday. Stay ruthless.